Hello, welcome to Level Change channel. My name is Claudio Fonseca, and today we are going to talk about all the display options that we have for the 737 developed by Pmdg. I am a real-world pilot, and this video is part of a series of videos that cover all the options that we have for this aircraft. And because of this, I've created this document that you can see on your screen right now that give you the list and the hyperlink to all the videos that I developed for the Pmdg 737 options. So today we are going to talk about the display options. I'm going to talk about all these options here that we have for the display. But for example, if you want to know something about a specific equipment for this airplane, you have a series of video about it. Also, I will finish the video about failures, and then later on about the options for simulation, for performance, for colors, and finally the BBG options. So for today's video about display, let's go again to our Microsoft Flight Simulator. As you can see, we have the 737 now in flight. I'm stationary at this position, so we go inside our cockpit now, and on the CDU menu you can go to Pmdg setup, aircraft, and then displays. I'm going to talk about all the options that we have here for displays. I will try to follow the sequence, but some of these I can only show you during the approach, and some of these I can only show you on the ground. So that's why I'm going sometimes to skip some of these options, but I come back later on. So the first information that we have here is that on the page number 1 we have information about displays and specifically about the PFD as well. Okay, so first option that we have is displays type, and the options are PFD, ND, or EFIS map. That means primary flight display and navigation display, or electronic flight instrument system and the map. Okay, so if you change it to EFIS map, you will have the electronic flight instruments, okay, and you are going to have a map here on the right side. Is the opposite on the right side, where you have the EFIS and then the map on the left side. Okay, but basically you have the instruments separated and the map. If you go to PFD ND, this stands for primary flight display and navigation display. So you have primary flight display outboard and the navigation display inboard. So this is the first option that you can have. Note that once you change also to EFIS map, you have this type of engine options, and you cannot change this engine display. Every time you have this type of display, the EFIS map, you will have this type of engine options. Okay, with the PFD you can change it. I will show you later on. Then the next step is the flight director. The flight director, you also have two options, is a split axis, the one that you have right now. So this is the crossbar. You have one vertical bar and one lateral bar. They are two bars separated, and they kind of work separated as well. And you also have the option for single queue. So in this case you only have one single flight director that will combine both indications. Okay, so this is up to you. Most of the airlines nowadays, they do use the split axis. That's the standard one for Boeing, where you have the flight director, it's like a plus sign if you have everything in order. The next one is the ground speed display, where you have the options for on and off. This ground speed display is the display that you have for your ground speed on your PFD, on your primary flight display here on the left corner. Okay, right now, because we have a speed greater than Mach decimal 40, you will not see it, but I will show you right now. If we open the speed window here and reduce our speed basically to flap up speed. That's a good speed now. You will see that as our airspeed drops below Mach 0.4, you will have this replaced by the ground speed, but the ground speed will only show here if you have ground speed display to on. Okay, so let's wait until it goes below Mach 40. We have 0.41 now, so every time it goes below 0.40 you have the ground speed as is just showing here, but if you have ground speed display to off, then this information do not appear anymore. Okay, this information does not appear anymore. You still have the ground speed information on your navigation display though. Okay, so the ground speed on your navigation display will always be there. What we are talking about is the ground speed indicator on the primary flight display. So the primary flight display is this one, the outboard display. So if you take this to on again, you will see the ground speed there. Okay. The next one is the VREF plus 20 bug. I will show you during the approach, this one. And the 100 knots bug I will show you on the ground later on. So these two options I have to show you, one on the approach and the second one, or the last one for this page, on the ground. The next option is rising runway. Also I will show you during the approach. And the PFD ND NPS is the primary flight display, navigation display. This NPS is the navigation performance scales. Okay, so the navigation performance scales, they show on the PFD and on the ND. The navigation performance scales, they are right below your attitude indication, or right on your right side of your attitude indication, and it's also on the center at the bottom of your navigation display. On the PFD as well, this information here, like a localizer and a glide slope, but related to your current navigation, is going to be displayed if you have PFD and the NPS to on. And also on the upper side, on the left corner of your attitude indicator, you will have which are the systems that it's indicating for you. So in this case, the lateral one is based on the lateral navigation and the vertical one is based on the vertical navigation, but it can also be the ILS, it can also be the VOR courses and so on. So the information that you have here in LNAV, VNAV for this case is showing you which NPS scale you are having now. If you take them as off, they disappear from the navigation display, okay, and they also disappear from your primary flight display, and then the only thing that you have on your primary flight display will be the ILS. So anytime you take the ILS out, you will see, let me go back to this one, you will see that they didn't remove the ILS. Yeah, I didn't remove because I choose another ILS frequency. So forgive me, I want to take 115.95, just an example here. And once again, 115.95. My mistake. So once you are flying and then you have your NPS to off and you do not have any ILS, as you can see now, you do not have any option. Once again, if you turn them on, now you see that you have the option for LNAV and VNAV as well. You have the NPS scales, the lateral and the vertical one showing there, and you also have your RNP and your current ANP on your navigation display. So this is PFD and the NPS on and off. The next one is pitch limit indicator pop up as yes or no. So the pitch limit indicator, to show the pitch limit indicator to you, I'm going to extend the flaps to 1 right now. Okay, so I'm extending the flaps to 1, and anytime you have the flaps extended, it's just extending now, you will have the pitch limit indicator available. The pitch limit indicator is this shape of eyebrows, yellow here on the attitude indicator, which is your pitch limit for the stick shaker for your airplane to experience the low speed buffet. Okay, so this is the limit of your pitch. Above it, we can say that the airplane starts stalling. Okay, this is not the correct thing. Maybe it's going to start even a little bit further, but that's the time you're going to have at least the stick shaker. Okay, so anytime you have flaps, it's going to appear. Anytime you do not have flaps, it disappears from your view. Okay, like just disappear now. But there is also another option, and this is the pitch limit indicator pop-up. It automatically pops up even though you do not have flaps if you are getting closer to it. Okay, so in this case, to show it, I'm going to reduce my airspeed to 170 knots. In normal flight, I will not do it, okay, because I do not have any flap extended. So anytime you do not have flap extended, you should limit your speed to the flap up speed. Okay, so this pitch limit indication pop up, it's an indication for you if you do not have flaps and they are on view that you are flying at a lower speed that you should be flying at a specific moment. Okay, I'm going to maintain this just out of the amber band because we don't need to go all the way to the amber band, at least on the real plane. Okay, I just want to show you that as we approach the amber band, look there, it just appeared. So this is one indication for you that you are getting closer to your minimum speed. Okay, on the real airplane, it pops up above the amber band. Okay, it doesn't wait until you reach the amber band, so it's an indication to you that you are approaching. On here, the Pmdg, it only shows when you pretty much touch the amber band. Okay, as you can see, I'm going like you are just out of the amber band, it disappear. Okay, you just notice. If I'm going to reduce the speed a little bit more, like 2 knots, you will see that it will pop up again eventually. Let me just bring the speed again to 190. Okay, and now I reduce back to 170. So I just reset the system and you will see that the pitch limit indication will pop up again because you have this option as on. Okay, so it is on anytime you reach the amber band, the pitch limit indication show up. If you take as no, it is disappeared even though you are in this case already inside the amber band. Okay, so I do recommend you to keep this pitch limit indication pop up as on. Okay, and this will show you, give you an alert when you are flying at low speeds. The next one is round radio altimeter dial. Okay, so actually for this one we need to go further down on this approach to show you. That's why I'm going to release my airplane and we are going to fly right now. Let me see, to the point Chitla. Okay, so we fly direct to Chitla now, and our altitude at Chitla is 5,000 feet. I'm going to set 5,000 feet here. The airplane is going to maintain the speed and descent slowly. Let me just see the cruise here, 9,000. Okay, we are 7 miles to top of descent. That's good. Let me just come back here and set. Oops. I just want to make sure I'm flying direct to that position, Titla, and that is fine. Okay, so now we continue. As we go down, I'm going to show you the round radio altitude dial later on. What I can show you is the angle of attack dial. The angle of attack dial, it shows on the upper part on the right side of your attitude indication, and it will show you your angle of attack, okay, your AOA dial. So this is your angle of attack. Note that anytime you have your round radio altimeter dial to on, the angle of attack is automatically off, because this is the option, this is the part of the display that will show you the round radio altimeter. So you can have both to off, okay, you can have or if you have one of them to on, the other one will be automatically switched to off, okay. I will show you the round radio altimeter in a second, okay. Most of the airlines, they do not have the option for angle of attack dial because it's extra cost for the airplane, and most of the companies, they don't pay for it, okay. So I do not fly with it. Is up to you if you want to have your angle of attack indication or not. Then landing altitude bar, I will also show you during the approach. 2,500 feet alert height, okay. This is assumed to be a 2,500 feet alert on your altitude indication when you are 2,500 feet above your landing airport, okay. I couldn't see anything on the Pmdg, so actually this option for me as on or off is not changing anything, okay. So I keep it as on. I try to look every single approach, but this is something that I didn't have on my previous airline when I was flying the 737, or even now on the 777 on my current airline, we don't have this information, okay. The next one is the low airspeed alert. For the low airspeed alert, I'm going to show you again some low speeds here. So let me bring this airplane. Actually, I'm going to take the auto throttle off, reduce the thrust, and take it to altitude hold. As I take it to the altitude hold, even though I can keep my flap up speed, I keep altitude hold and auto throttle disengaged, so the auto throttle will not move the thrust levers anymore, and as I brought them to the idle detent, that means I have no thrust on my engines, and that's why their speed is reducing, okay. I already showed to you on the equipment options that we have an auto warning for this low speed alert, but this is your low airspeed alert amber box around your speed tape, okay. I'm going to show you as soon as we reach a low speed state that the box around your airspeed is going to be yellow, okay. It's going to blink yellow, what we call it amber on the 737, so it's going to blink amber, okay. Of course, if you have the lower speed to know, and I will show you that speed window will not turn it to amber if you are in a low speed condition, okay. So we are approaching the top of the amber band, and eventually we are going to have the airspeed indication turning amber, okay. The PFD is the PLE is there, pitch limit indication, and when you are half through to the amber band, you will see that you have it in yellow, okay. This is the indication for you. If I take it as no, you will see that, okay, now it's because it's still on the indication itself, okay. I have to reset the system for it to work, so I'm just getting out of it. As you can see, the yellow was there, so now we do not have the yellow anymore. Let me just take it out. Okay, so now we don't have the yellow anymore, the amber indication for low speed anymore, and I took the lower speed alert to off. So in this case, you will see that you will not have your the box around your airspeed turning to yellow. Okay, you will see that in a minute. Okay, you see it didn't change the color. So now I'm applying thrust. So it didn't change the color to you. Okay, now I'm engaging auto throttle. I'm going to use level change, and we are going to descend to 4,000 feet. Okay, so 4,000 feet. And as we are approaching the final fix, one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this airplane at this current position again. So we have the position freeze, so the airplane is descending to 4,000 right here. Okay, so you have the low airspeed alert option to on and off. I do recommend it to keep on, as the PFD, the box around this airspeed, is going to turn amber as you are halfway through the amber band, the low speed, the low speed maneuver, okay, band. So I do recommend it to keep it as on. Do not confuse this with the low airspeed auto alert that you have on the equipment. Okay, so these are the options for the PFD to change the PFD indication. The next one is show landing flaps. As you can see here, we have the indication for VREF. It says flaps 30/148. That means the VREF speed for the flaps 30 is 148. If you take show landing flaps to off, then you will have only ref 148. So that means your VREF is 148, but you do not know if it's for flaps 15, 30 or 40. So in this case, you need to go to your initial reference page and you need to check which one you just selected here, 15, 30 or 40. So in this case, it's flaps 30, 148, but you do not have the information right in front of you on your primary flight display. So I do recommend show landing flaps to on. That will give you the indication of which flap you selected for your landing. The next one that we have is the flight path vector heading scale. Okay, so this one only shows if you have your flight path vector on. So I'm turning the flight path vector on, and as you can see, now we have this small plane here. This is my flight path vector. Okay, so once you have the flight path vector on, you can choose here in the equipment options or on the display options for your PFD if you want to have the heading scale or not. This is set to off. This is the normal one, the standard one, but if you set it to on, you will see that you have your heading scale there, like this is heading 260, this is heading 250 on in front of us, and 240 to the left, and so on. So you can check here that we are on the heading 250 pretty much, and this is what is showing on the horizontal line if you have the FPV, the flight path vector, on or off. So even though you have the flight path vector heading scale to on, if you deselect the flight path vector, nothing is going to be shown there. Okay, so don't blame the airplane to have the flight path vector heading to on while you have it set to off. Okay, so you need to have the flight path vector on, and you need to have the flight path vector heading scale to on as well. I do recommend it to keep as off, as I've never seen this option available to any airline. Okay, so this is related to the flight path vector. The next option that we have, they are all about the EFIS and map options. Okay, so for this to work, first you have to go to page number 1 and choose EFIS map. Okay, once you have EFIS map, then you can work with this information here. Okay, the first information is that if you have a round radial altimeter for the last 1,000 feet of your approach, okay, when you have this information as EFIS and map, you will always have the radial altimeter at this position. Okay, you will always have it here. For the last 1,000, there is a round radial altimeter that will show you, and I will show you once again when we are on the approach, so you can see the round radial altimeter. If you take it as off, you will never see the round radial altimeter. You will always see only the altitude indication here. Okay, one thing that I'm going to show you, and I just understood it now, is that this 2,500 feet alert high is this out indication here that is showing here every time you are below 2,500 feet and above 500 feet. Okay, so if you take this to off, you will see that the out information there is removed from your view. Okay, the thing is, if you turn them on again, it's not going to show when you already have your radial altimeter showing there. Okay, so this 2,500 feet alert height, I just understood based on the documents that that's the out indication that I just remove it from there if you give them the off option. If you have the on option, it will show out here to give you an awareness that you are below 2,500 feet high. Okay, until you are 500 feet high. The next option is for the 80 knots bug that I can only show you on the ground, and this again is the EFIS map for the flight path vector. If you have the flight path vector, yes or no. If I take it, the flight path vector just showed there. It's leveled now because we are maintaining 4,000 feet, but as you can see, the flight path vector is there. Okay, once again, you will only have the FPV if you select it here on the EFIS as well. Okay, so it's not only to select FPV here to on, you need to have it on the option, and you need to select it here on the EFIS control panel for it to show. Okay, of course, anytime you take this to off, then the FPV will not pop up. It doesn't matter if you have it the button pressed or not. Okay, so keep it on, and if you want to use, just press the FPV button. If you do not want to use, FPV button to off, but at least you have the option to use it or not. The next option that we have is for the navigation display. Okay, and for the navigation display, even though it works for this EFIS map, it is supposed pretty much to work with the primary flight display and navigation display. That's why I'm reverting to this one. So let's go again now to the navigation display, and then on the navigation display you have two options for what is at the top upper part of your navigation display. It can be track up as it is right now. So we are flying at track 256, and as you can see, our heading is pretty much 250. So I'm going to bring this heading to our side now. So pretty much 250. This is our current heading. Okay, so our current heading is to the left. We will always have the track on top. So if you change track up to no, then what you have is your heading on the top, and then your track will be left or right depending on your wind. Okay, so if you have track up as no, what you will have up here is the heading. If you have track up as yes, what you have there is the track and not the heading, and vice versa. The next step is the vertical situation display as on or off. The vertical situation display, if you have it on, you can access it pressing 2 times on the center function for your map selection. Okay, if you press 1 time, it goes to the, in this case, to the map center position, and the second press, it will give you the center with the VSD. This is the VSD, vertical situation display. This is the VSD. Okay, if you set the VSD here to off, it doesn't matter how many times you press the center function, it will always show from, switch from center to expanded mode. Okay, this is the expanded mode. You press 1 time, it goes to center, and 1 more time expanded mode. So if you take VSD to on, remember you will have a third option added to the center switch here. So instead of expanded and center only, you have also VSD. So I do recommend it to keep as on. Range arcs. The range arcs, it will only show if you have something related like terrain or weather on your screen. Okay, so if you have weather or terrain, you will see the range arcs there if you have it selected to on. If you have it selected to off, the arcs will not show. Okay, so to have the arcs, you need to have range arcs selected as on, and you also need to have weather or terrain. If you do not have weather or terrain, the arcs, they are automatically removed from your view as well. Okay, so make sure you have range arcs to on, and then you have weather radar or terrain. This is to give you awareness that you have at least one of them on, and it should be like this during your entire flight. Below MSA, usually one pilot has terrain, the other pilot has weather, and above MSA, usually both pilots, they fly with the weather. So if by mistake you turn off the weather radar, the range arcs will not show. Okay, and the opposite is also true. Even though if you have weather radar or terrain on, but you change range arcs to off, the range arcs will never show on your screen. Okay, so I do recommend it to keep it as on. The next one is show next altitude constraint. So I'm going to get closer. As you can see here, our next fix is OIL, and you have here OIL 4000 or above, because this is the next point and this is the next altitude constraint. Okay, if you take it to no, you will see that the 4000 there, it disappears. Okay, so let me go to the legs here. As you can see, OIL 4000 or above, if you take it as show next altitude constraint as yes, it's going to show there at OIL. What I'm going to show you now is that the next altitude constraint is not only related to the next waypoint, is the next altitude constraint that you have on the descent page, and usually is the next waypoint. But let's see, I'm going to show you that if you do not have anything on the next waypoint, so I'm just going to delete here the information for OIL. Now the next altitude is only at Xinglu. If we go back to our screen, you will see that the 3500 over Xinglu is shown there. Okay, so Xinglu 3500 is shown because now we do not have altitude constraint in OIL, so the next altitude constraint is Xinglu 3500. Once again, if you take it to no, it disappears from the point as well. Okay, so you can keep it as yes, it's going to give you the altitude information to the next waypoint. Most of the companies, they do not have this option, so it's up to you if you want to fly it with it or not. The next one is the VOR course lines. So the VOR course lines are these green lines that you can see on your navigation display. So this one needs a VOR selected that is within the range that you are flying, and also it's going to show you the course. So if I take course, for example, 175, now it's showing you the course 175 and the course 355 to this VOR. Okay, so these are the lines. If you take them as off, they disappear. You do not have the green lines related to the VOR course lines. This only works with VOR. Okay, it does not work with ILS. Okay, it is only showing lines for the VOR course. That's why I do have a VOR selected here to show you these lines. Okay, next step is the minimum runway length. Okay, for the minimum runway length, there are some interesting things here. First, I'm going to show the airports that we have around here. So if I take off or if I change my zoom here, you're going to see that we have a couple of airports: Echo November Echo Golf, Echo November Kilo Juliet, and of course Echo November Golf Mike. It's our destination airport. Okay, so to have the airports here, the airport must be selected and you use this button here. Okay, first thing that this minimum runway length does is to remove or to show airports based on the runway length. So here in this case, it's showing me all airports that have a minimum runway length of 4,000 feet. You cannot change it to meters here, but you can change and you can choose different numbers. Let's say you just want to see airports that have at least 10,000 feet length on its runway. So you take 10,000 feet and now you're going to see that most of the airports, they disappear. If you take 6,000 feet, for example, now we still do not have more than Oslo here. If I take 5,000 feet as another example, now we have already one airport here to the west, Echo November Echo Golf. And if I take it again 4,000 feet, then you have Echo November Kilo Juliet as well. So it's up to you to select the minimum runway length that you want your navigation display to show you. This also affects here on the route page and alternate destination nearest airport. It also affects your nearest airport information page. Okay, so if you change it, let me show you. We are here showing airports at 15, 28, 33, 46, and 52 miles. Okay, so if you take this, let's say, to 10,000 feet, it's going to restrict a lot airports. And now on the nearest airports, you have airports that are 15 and 132 miles. This is just taking time to update, but as you can see, it changes as well. So we can go back to 4,000 and now you have your airports again. You go to the nearest airport, it shows you the right way. Let's take it to something like 8,000 feet and we go again. You will see that now it's showing 5 options again, and those 5 options, they are up to 84 miles. So to have 8,000 feet, you have 5 airports around you in the next 84 miles. Once again, if I take to the standard, I think it comes with the Pmdg, which is 4,000. Okay, and you go back to this page. Now you have 5 airports within 52 miles. Okay, so this is just to show you that the minimum runway length changes the nearest airports in the FMC and also changes the airport information on your navigation display. The next one is the TCAS 3-mile range ring. For the TCAS 3-mile range ring, the first thing that you need to have is a range of, where is it? It was supposed to be here. Oh, it's because my traffic is not on. Okay, so I need to have traffic on, okay, to show my TCAS ring. Okay, and my TCAS ring, it only shows when, well, actually it's showing even at 80 miles, and now you can pretty much not see it anymore. So I will take it to the biggest or to the smallest zoom that we have here, and this is not good. Maybe 10 miles it's better to show you. Okay, so this is my TCAS 3 miles range ring. Okay, so this gives me pretty much like a clock, 12 hours, 1, 2, 3 hours, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, 10 hours, and 11 hours. So that's the information that the ATC will tell you about traffic information, or if you want to refer to any airplane to the ATC, you can use this TCAS 3 mile range ring that is like a clock, it's like a watch that is going to give you the options to have relative information about the airplanes. Okay, so if you take it to off, this 3 miles range ring, the dotted range ring here, it disappears. Okay, so I do recommend it to keep on. Most of the airplanes, they do have it. The other option or the other 3 options, they are also related to your TCAS. Okay, so you have first the option of other traffic to show all, so it will show all the traffics that you have within your navigation display range. Okay, so if you, even if you have 600 miles, if it's if it can access traffic that is 600 miles, it is going to show it to you. Okay, this is not real, as most of the Boeing airplanes, they have a filter, and this filter is 40 miles. But anyway, here you can change and choose different ranges. You can take like 20 miles or whatever you want, 100 miles. So it's going to show you the airplanes that are up to 100 miles. Well, actually, if 100 miles is invalid, let's take a look what is the maximum that we can have. Let's see if it accepts. Yeah, 50 it accepts. 60 as well, 70, 80 we already noticed that it does not accept, 79. Okay, so up to 79 miles range you can select it. Usually the Boeing planes, they have a range of 40 miles. Okay, and also you have a filter for the altitude. So in this case it's showing 2,800. Most of the Boeing planes, they have 2,700 above and below you. Some airplanes, they even have expanded option to 7,000 or to 9,000. Okay, so let's see the limit here for the Pmdg. It accepts 7,000. It also accepts 9,000. I think 10,000 it shouldn't accept. Yeah, this is an invalid entry. And let me try 9,100. Yeah, it does. 9,500. It does. Maybe it goes to 999. Yeah, so you can go up to 9,999 feet. I do recommend you to keep 2,740 miles range and the other traffic information to filter. Of course, anytime you take it to show all, the range and altitude separation becomes blank. You cannot change it anymore because you are showing all. You are not filtering by range and altitude separation. Okay. The next one is engine side by side. Okay, remember that I told you that once you have EFIS and map, you will have this type of engine instruments. Okay, so this is the only option that you have for the EFIS map display panel. But if you have PFD and D, you have the option to have the same information for the engine. You can have them side by side. Okay, so in this case, then the bottom display is inoperative. As you can see, MFD here, you cannot type anything. It shows inop because you have all the engine instruments side by side here on the center upper display. Okay, I do recommend it to select as no, especially if you have the PFD and D. This is the standard mode for the engines with the 737 NG, but you have that option. The next option is a little bit complicated to explain for non-pilots or for non-real pilots, but basically our EGT, it has three ranges: the white one, then the amber one, and the red one. Okay, so this will change from white to amber and then to red as you reach the EGT limits. The thing is, for takeoff, the amber band is inhibited. Okay, so you have you go straight from the white to the red band during the takeoff part, and during the takeoff you have the option to have this inhibit for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes. So that's why changing 5 to 10 here, if you never reach the EGT limit during takeoff, it will not change anything to you. Basically, the engines, they are certified for 5 minutes. And the engine manufacturer allowed the buyer of the airplane, the company that is buying that airplane with that specific engine, to extend this inhibit from 5 to 10 minutes if you are single engine. So the company has to choose to buy the option to fly up to 10 minutes single engine, exceeding the amber EGT limit. So the manufacturer approves it, and then they have to come to the engine instruments here and change the inhibit to 10 minutes. That means if you have 10 minutes here, if you take off after takeoff and you have an excess of thrust, if you have a high thrust and the EGT reaches the amber band, it will not show amber until 10 minutes has elapsed. So you have 10 minutes to reduce your thrust, to reduce your EGT, and it will not cause you any trouble. Okay, if you do not have this option, the other option is 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes option for single engine. I'm talking about single engine because if you have both engines running, the engine limit for the EGT is always 5 minutes after takeoff. Okay, so for 5 minutes dual engine, or in this case 10 minutes single engine, you will have the amber EGT band inhibit. The next one is the oil quantity indication. If we take the oil quantity indication here, and let me show it like this, this is the oil quantity. It's been showed in percent, so you have also the option to change it to liters. Okay, so the oil quantity, it doesn't show the percent anymore, and then the indication is changed to liters. So in this case we have 13 liters of oil each engine. If we change to percent, this is like 74 and 73% for the oil quantity. It's just the how can I say this one more time in English, is like the scale that you are going to use, percent or liters. Okay, it's every company uses it differently, and the company I was flying from 2010 to 2017, it had both options. So some planes that we were going to fly, it was showing percent, and some planes were showing liters. Not a big deal. The next option I will not show to you because it takes a long time to give you a low quantity indication for these engines. Okay, but the low quantity indication, low oil quantity inverse, it is going to change this indication from black with white numbers to white with black numbers if you have a low quantity indication. This is the same thing that happens with the vibration. I'm going to show you vibration. It also takes a little bit of time, but I can show you as we go through this video. So let me just take here engine 1 vibration. So I can show you with the vibration what Boeing calls as inverse, because we are going to have the inverse or the reverse indication here. The other one is high vibration alert. High vibration alert is supposed to give you a pop-up indication on this screen when you have a high vibration indication. So usually this engine indication is blanked. If you have a high engine vibration or anything else changes out of normal, this screen here pops up automatically, and you also have the option to choose if the high vibration alert is going to be one of the conditions or not. Usually it is yes. The only thing that I really noticed changing on the Pmdg is that if you have engine side-by-side display, is that you have an extra white line when it reaches the limit of 4 units. Okay, so this is the only thing I could notice for this high vibration alert, because the high vibration alert was working even though I changed it to off. I think it also matters when you have it selected before your engine start or after your engine start, maybe, so that's configured the Pmdg airplane to this indication. I'm going to keep it like this. As I have the engine 1 vibration active, you will see that eventually this will pop up and we are going to see the vibration indication here. The next is maximum continuous thrust bug as on and off. Maximum continuous thrust bugs are the yellow bugs here on your N1 engine indication. If you take them to off, then you do not have the white bugs there for the engine indication. Okay, I do recommend it to keep them as on, so you always know where is your maximum continuous thrust. Any case you need to use it, you just take the auto throttle off and you take the engines to that limit, you will be at maximum continuous thrust. Okay, of course the other option during normal flight, if you want, you can go to N1 limit, and instead of automatic you can change to continuous, and then you will see that the green indication matches the yellow indication if you are in continuous. Okay, so in this case I will keep it in auto, it's showing the cruise for now. The next one is show reference N1. So the reference N1 is what you see as green on top of your N1 indication. So right now my N1 indication is 59.7 and my reference, the maximum that the auto throttle is going to command, is 88.9 based on the cruise limit. If you take it, you can change it to never, so you will not have the green indication there, the number itself, even though you always have the green indication on the dial instrument itself. You do not have now the number on top of the N1 indication. The other option is to show only when a derated it's being used. So when you go to climb 1 or climb 2, okay, or so as you can see, climb 1 88.9, climb 2 will be 89.5, but if you are in the normal climb or normal takeoff, you will not see anything. Okay, so I do recommend always, but I think that like companies like Ryanair, they use the option as when derated use. I do prefer always, as my previous company was using it as always. Okay, the last page, we still have a couple of things to cover then on the approach, but the last page is the fuel low alert below. So when this fuel indication for the main tanks are going to turn amber, it's going to change from white to amber when you have 450 kilograms or when you have 900 kilograms. Okay, I'm going to keep it at 900 kilograms because eventually we are going to reach 900 kilograms in any of these tanks, so you are going to see it change into amber, and I'm going to remind you that this is the option, and then we are going to change it to 450, so you will see that the indication will turn white again. So this is the limit for your low fuel state to show on the airplane. Is also company configurable. I do recommend 450 for the 737 because you will have at least 900 kilograms, because we are talking about 450 each tank or 900 kilos each tank. So 900 kilos, you can have minimum fuel not below 1,800. So 1,800, I think it's a lot of fuel for the 737. So I do prefer the low fuel alert to show me when we have 450 kilograms, but that is up to you. The next one is fuel total display as yes or no. As you can see here, we have a totalizer and this type of fuel quantity indication. Okay, so if you take it to no, then you do not have the total one, and you have like a round dial for your fuel quantity as well. So you can pretty much see visually how is your fuel load. So here 0 on the certain tank, you do not have anything, and you have like 1,000 more or less on tanks number 1 and number 2. That is roughly let's say 30% or 25% of your total fuel that is allowed for you on these tanks. I do like the total display to yes, so it's easy for me to check my total amount of fuel on board. The next option is metric or imperial units. You can change it from kilograms to pounds. So in this case, we have 2,000 2,000 kilograms of fuel. If you change to pounds, okay, now we have 4,500 pounds. And then the fuel low alert, it changes from 1,000 pounds to 2,000 pounds. Okay, so I do recommend, or it's not that I recommend, I've always been flying the 737 and the 777 now with metric units with fuel in kilograms, so I do prefer fuel and weights in kilograms. Okay, as you can see here, let me just take this engine indication off, because we are about to reach the vibration of 4. Okay, so it reached 4, so now we have the vibration indicating 4.1. This is the reverse mode, as I showed you before. 4.2 in black with a white background, and the standard is the indication in white with a black background. So this is the reverse. Okay, this is the reverse for the displays that I was going to show you. I'm going to clear all these malfunctions here because I don't want to lose this engine. So now we are back to the standard one. Okay, so this is supposed to be the high vibration alert. When you have a high vibration, this engine page is going to pop up automatically. Okay, and the low oil quantity inverse is going to show the low oil quantity the same way it showed the high vibration with inverted colors here. Okay, so these are the two options that I was about to show you before. Now the next one is flight control surfaces indicator. If you have here the MFD option for the system, you will always have the hydraulic information, but you can also have the indicator for your primary flight surfaces. So here we have the information for your aileron, your flight spoiler, your elevator, the right flight spoiler, then the right aileron. Of course, these are the left aileron and spoilers, and at the bottom the rudder. Okay, so you can see where the flight control surfaces are. You also have the option for the brake temperature indication. If you take it as on, it's going to show here the brake temperature in units. So in this case it's 0 because the brakes, they are cold. Okay, so you have the left and the right brakes. You have wheel number 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the units for the brake temperature. Usually most of the companies they opt not to have this, as it gives you actually increases the price of the airplane. Okay, and it doesn't really give any operational efficiency to the airplane. Okay, it's just an indication where you are. And for the brake temperature, usually the 737 do not have issues with brake temperature, so most of the companies, they select it as no, and I keep it like this. But if you want to know your brake temperature, you can keep them on. Okay, so these are the information that I can give you. So now I'm going to show what I couldn't show during the approach. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you now the first one, which is the VREF plus 20 bug. Okay, the VREF plus 20 bug, to do it, I have to start extending my flaps. Okay, so I'm going to extend flaps 1, going to reduce speed, 5. Now I take the gear down. And now I can already show you the VREF plus 20 bug. The VREF plus 20 bug is this white bug here. As you can see, it's always the speed that you have here as VREF, in this case flaps 30, 148, plus 20, 168. So you will have this white bug on 168. If you change, or actually if it changes from, in this case, from 148 to 145, as you selected flaps 30, 145, the white bug also changes to 165 in this case. On the 800 and 900, this is VREF plus 20. On the 700 and 600, this is VREF plus 15. This is basically the speed that you are going to fly in case you lost one engine during the approach already with the landing flaps and you choose to select to land with flaps 15. So you are configured for landing flaps 30 or flaps 40. At this time you lose one engine, you do not have thrust to maintain flaps 30 or 40, so you have to retract your flaps to 15 and still continue your approach, so you don't have to worry about your airspeed or calculating a new VREF speed for you. Just take your speed to the green bug there and you are going to be fine. Okay, this is the VREF bug as yes, VREF 20 bug as yes. If you take it as no, you will see that the bug just disappears from your view. Okay, so usually it is on. Again, the 100 knots bug I'm going to show you on the ground. The rising runway. The rising runway is something I'm going to show you very close to the ground. What I'm going to show you now is the round radio altimeter dial. So because of this, I'm going to release the airplane to continue flying. I'm going to take the ILS back. Okay, so the airplane is flying. Going to reduce to flap 5 speed. I'm going to arm approach. Set the runway heading here, 192. And here we go. We should have an approach, and I'm going to make automatic approach for this case, just to show you a couple of things. First is going to be the radio altimeter. So the radio altimeter, if you take it as round radio altimeter out dial as off, the radio altimeter is going to show you at the bottom of your attitude indicator. Okay, so let's just wait the airplane to start its descent on final. Oh, another thing, now you can see the fuel quantity indication is already below 900 kilograms, so it is in amber. If you take it to 450, now it's above 450, so you do not have the low state. So the 900, you will have the low indication, and also this is going to turn amber. Okay, it happens the same thing below 450 if you select 450. Okay, as we'll go down on the glide slope now, I'm going to select our speed, and I'm going to show you the two options for the radio altimeter that you have. So we are intercepting the glide slope now. Okay, glide slope interception. Note I can take the angle of attack to on, so I can have the angle of attack, and eventually I will have the radio altimeter once we are 2,500 feet above the ground. So let's just wait for it. Now you have the radio altimeter here. Okay, so this is round radio altimeter dial to off. The radio altimeter is here. If you take it to on, the angle of attack dial will be turned off automatically, and then you have the radio altimeter on your on the top right side of your attitude indicator. Okay, this green one that is going to show very soon is the rising runway. Okay, as we go down, you will see the rising runway showing there. Okay, radio altimeter again with the rising runway. Okay, if I take the rising runway to off, you do not see the green indication here anymore. So I'm going to show you what the rising runway does when we are really close to the ground during our approach. Now that we change to round radio altimeter altitude dial, the radio altimeter change from the bottom of your attitude indication to the top right side of your attitude indication, and it will also include a dial radio altimeter on the last 1,000 feet. Okay, I'm just going to select some minimums here around 800 feet if I do have time, just to show you that the indication for the bottle will be on your round radio altimeter dial as well. So let's say 850. Okay, we are getting close to 1,000 feet. Now is 1,600. So note, this is your radio altimeter. Now with round radio altimeter dial to on, when we are at the last 1,000 feet, you will have a dial radio altimeter here as well. I'm going to take it as on and off, and you will be able to see it. Oh, another thing, this is the landing altitude bar. Okay, landing altitude bar starts here 1,000 feet above the airport. If you take it as off, you don't see the white bar there anymore. Okay, now let's go back to round radio altimeter. Last 1,000, and now you have a round radio altimeter. If I take it as off, you do not have it. Okay, so you need round radio altimeter is there. Okay, landing altitude bar one more time. It's 1,000 feet and amber the last 500 feet. If I take it to off, you do not see the white and amber line on the side of your altimeter. As on, you have 500 feet from 1,000 to 500 as white, and from 500 to 0 as amber. Okay, so this is the landing altitude bar. The last one for the approach is the rising runway. So the rising runway is this green indication here that will rise towards the horizontal line on the last 50 to 30 feet of your approach. It will start and it will pretty much touch the ground the time you touch the ground itself. You can see it's already coming up, actually at 150 feet. It's coming up. This is the rising runway. It's a representation of the runway. So the runway is coming. Once you touch, you will see that the rising runway will touch the horizontal line as well. Okay, I'm going to keep the center line here a little bit. I'm not going to use reverse or anything. We are going to stop. I will allow the auto brake to fully stop this airplane. Okay, so I think I covered everything that we have for in-flight. Okay, let me just make sure. Yeah, on this we cover everything here as well. Here I'm missing the 80 knots bug. Yep, these are the two things that I'm missing to show you is the 100 knots bug. Okay, now I can show you 100 knots bug. Oops, this is back to normal. So the 100 knots bug, it only shows on the ground at 100 knots. So as you can see here, 100 knots, and you have a bug here, a white bug. If I take it to off, that bug disappears and comes to 80. Okay, so it's up to you if you want it at 80 or 100. Okay, so 100 knots bug on, the bug will be at 100. If it's off, it's going to be at 80. As 80 is usually the threshold from the low energy to the high energy, I do recommend you to keep as off. So you will have at 80 knots, and at 80 knots, usually the pilot monitoring makes a call to the pilot flying during the takeoff row. So this is another indication that you can use to make the 80 knots call out. So I do recommend you to keep it as no. The other option is the EFIS map display. Okay, so the EFIS map display, you have here on the EFIS map indication, the EFIS map 80 knots bug. It is pretty much the same thing, but at 80 knots as the other one is at 100. So you will have it at 80 knots. If you take as off, it just disappear. Okay, so for the 80 knots bug, you have the option as do not show on my EFIS map indication any bug. You have the option to take it as on, then you have the 80 knots bug showing there. Okay, but for the PFD, if you take PFD, then the option is to have at 80 or 100 is up to you. I do prefer at 100. Okay, so I think this concludes all the options. Just to make sure, I'm going to read them very quickly again. Display options: flight director, ground speed display, VREF plus 20 bug for the 800 and 900, VREF plus 15 for the 600 and 700, 100 knots bug, rising runway, PFD and ND NPS, pitch limit indication pop up, round radio altimeter dial. I do prefer it as off. I prefer the radio altimeter here, as this is the standard for the 777 and I'm flying the 777 nowadays. Angle of attack usually is off. Then landing altitude bar is yes. The landing altitude bar is going to show on takeoff and landing. Okay, so I showed you during landing, but if I take as it's Echo Europe Norway Golf Mike. Okay, this is the right one. So we can go to the same place, and I'm just going to select any runway here. I don't really care. This is just to activate this and execute. So now you have the landing altitude bar here. You will not only have the ground indication, this is the amber lines here, but you also have the bar on the side of your altitude display. Okay, so let me just take this to off. So once again, landing altitude bar, it starts from the runway is amber 500 feet, from 0 to 500 feet, and then from 500 feet to 1000, this is going to be white. This is the landing altitude bar, but it also shows on the departure airport. Okay, so even though the name is landing, you always have it for departure as well. The 2500 feet alert high, it only works on the EFIS map. Okay, and it's going to show here out when you are between 500 and 2500 feet. So I showed you that one as well. Low airspeed alert, yes. Show landing flaps, yes, I showed you. FPV heading scale, I do recommend it to keep it off. Then the options for the EFIS and map. the round radial altimeter as well, the 80 knots bug and the flight path vector. Then the navigation display for the information that you have, the track or the heading up, the vertical situation display, the range arcs, and then the next altitude constraint. In this case is showing next altitude constraint, as you can see, 1,100 feet. It is show on the departure and arrival, so the next altitude constraint that you have on the climb or on the descent page, it will be there. Just to make sure you understand that this is the next altitude constraint, not only for arrival, it's also for departure. VOR course lines, I showed you. Minimum runway length, I show you that it changes the navigation display and the FMC nearest airports. Then the TCAS 3 miles range ring, including the filter or not for the traffics based on range and altitude. And then for the engines, the side-by-side, and the difference for the EGT INHIBIT, the oil quantity indication, low oil quantity inverse, high vibration alert. The last two pages, maximum continuous thrust bugs, the amber one as yes or no, and show reference N1 on top of N1 indication, the green reference for the N1, the maximum N1 that the auto throttle will command as always, never or when the rated used. I show you how it works. And then the last one, the fuel and flight controls, the low fuel state for 450 or 1,000 pounds, or 900 kilograms or 2,000 pounds. The fuel total display as yes or no, metric or imperial units from kilograms to pounds, and the flight control surface indicator or the brake temperature indicator. These are the display options for the 737. I hope you like this video. 1 hour and pretty much 1 hour 15 minutes talking about all these options. I know it's a long video, but it gives you all the information that you need to have to select each and every display option on the 737 developed by Pmdg. Did you like the video, learn something? So hit the like button today. If you have any doubt, leave in the comments below, and please share this video with your friends. I see you next time. Bye bye.